Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of the In the Mixer podcast, and we've been hit with some shock news right before kickoff. Ronald Koeman has been sacked by Everton, and that's going to change the rundown of this show quite dramatically, really. Well, not really, but hey, I'm sure it'll be full of enjoyment and run smoothly. I'm sure to keep this show on track, we've got our main guys, we got the main two as well as myself, of course. We have our favourite Swedish bassist that we know of. Elias, say hello.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we're talking about
Please,
you.
please continue.
Okay, well,
I feel flattered.
we'll move on. We've got our favourite non-Swedish bassist, Michael, which is quite a large pool of people, so you've been plucked out as the favourite. You should be quite happy with that.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that.
That was a
Hello, by the way.
that was a good intro. I was proud of that.
It was almost a backhanded compliment for Elias as well. You know, favourite Swedish bassist that we know of. As if another one's going to turn and go, "Oh, sorry, Elias, you're out."
I'm not a music guy. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Zlatan might play the bass. I'm sure there's not many things he can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hey, he could be back by New Year apparently. But that's not who we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about another European. Another European that I believe thinks a lot about himself personally. We're going to go straight to Goodison then. Everton 2, Arsenal 5. Ronald Koeman has been sacked as of Monday. Wow. We spoke last week about he probably won't get sacked for a while. Turns out he got sacked straight away. So I'm going to pose one question to you, Michael, and then another to Elias. I'm going to say, Michael, was this a fair sacking? And then Elias, I'm going to say, was it the right decision? Which is kind of the same question, but from different points of view.
Was it a fair sacking? Is that my question?
Yeah.
I can't remember which way. I can't remember which way round you
Just
posed it.
answer
Is it
one of them.
fair? Is it fair? Yeah, I think so. Even though we talked about it being like it would be dubious if it was like a decision to sack him. But yeah, I'd say it's fair, definitely. Everton are in the bottom three and don't show any signs of their form turning around at all, and scored 5 against a team that's previously been sort of struggling to sort of win games by more than 2 goals. So they certainly put themselves forward for relegation candidates, which they shouldn't be, and Koeman's obviously behind that.
Ooh, stern words. What about you, Elias? What you got to say about it?
Well, I'm just going to answer the same question. It was pretty much the same question. Yeah, I think it's fair. It's definitely fair because he's got the first he's got the first games of this season just not looking to improve at all. Like he's got his players that he wanted. I think his season would have gone differently if he had Yannick Bolasie to have some kind of pace going forward. Like nothing is positive about the way he plays with that Everton team, and I definitely think it's a fair second.
I think the biggest problems with it is the lack of plan going forward, like the actual attack. There's just no sort of identity there or way to play. We saw with their 2 goals against Arsenal, they were both pretty much mistakes on Arsenal's behalf. And it's interesting to say that about Bolasie, because we spoke about how important he'd be coming back, for Everton, but a lot's been made of the fact that they didn't buy a striker with the money. And if that pace on the wings was so important, why didn't they spend some of that money on a wide player? I mean, it boggles the mind.
Personally, I don't even think that's the only position they should have looked to buy, and I think while buying Sigurdsson's a huge signing in terms of like player name and obviously for his skill level, but maybe they should have just could have done with a striker instead. Rooney alone isn't going to be the only. If you plan to play 2 up front, like no disrespect to Calvert-Lewin, but being burst into the first team so quickly, really, because he sort of played not even half Everton's games in the Premier League last season, and now he's expected to be starting every game up front and be a consistent scorer for Everton. It's a huge step. So probably that was a mistake in not even buying a striker. There's many positions they could have bought in, and we've highlighted in previous episodes that they've bought too many attacking midfielders. They've just bought too many midfielders in general.
They bought too many midfielders with the same play style.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I think it was the biggest problem.
No, definitely. But then he did that, and he didn't have a system, and I think that's the biggest problem for Koeman. Buying all these players was fine. if you had a system to play them in, which he clearly didn't. Let's talk about Arsenal then, because much was made of the Ozil, Lacazette, Alexis partnership, or AOL. No copyright intended. Looks good going forward, Arsenal, but I want to put a big asterisk on this because it's easy to look good going forward when you literally don't have to defend.
Yeah, and it kind of was proved it a bit because they conceded 2 really sloppy goals. So the opportunities where they did maybe have to do some, and like the first one wasn't even them defending; it was them.
Well, yeah, both the goals were their mistakes, weren't they?
Yeah, but as in like the first goal, they should have had complete control of possession. But yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Really, it's easy to score so many when the team is not threatening.
Yeah. What about you? You want to say anything about their attack, Elias?
No, I just think that this just verifies that Özil can do it, but not in the most like massive. Like he can make. I think there was a Swedish pundit that said a good word. Like he can make like good teams really good if he's got like the actual the actual like game plan the way he wants it, and. I like Özil looks good this game, but what has he really done this season? Like, it's still a massive question mark.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
But there's still the statistic that Özil in the past calendar year has created the most chances of any player in the Premier League. I imagine De Bruyne is probably approaching that now, but Özil still has the statistically. So it's like where else do you point the finger when it? Yeah.
I mean,
but I do agree. Like it's obvious that shouldn't be the only thing in his game.
Yeah, but the thing is, Elias is right. I mean, Ozil's not always been at this point where Arsenal was so far behind the top teams. Like maybe even 2 seasons ago, they were like within touching distance. Like, okay, they weren't good enough to win the league, but they were like in touching distance almost. Whereas now they're so far behind, they're having to play like Ozil is actually detrimental to their shape and their structure. And especially against teams that can actually attack. I just think Everton have probably the worst attack in the league at the moment. Like, you give the ball to Jordan Pickford and you say, okay, how are they going to score? They're going to boot it long? No, they'll lose the header. They're going to play it short? Well, no, they're not good enough because they've got no pace to penetrate. And even teams like Crystal Palace, they have a bit of creativity. But with Arsenal, it's like players like us. It's almost the opposite problem of Everton. Almost, it's like they're so good going forward, and no one's doubting Ozil and Alexis's abilities. But especially with Ozil, I think it might actually be a blessing in disguise if he does leave in January or the summer, as it looks like it's going to happen.
Come back to Schalke.
Wait, Ozil played for Schalke? I thought he played for Werder Bremen and then...
Yeah, and he started at Schalke.
What? Does anyone not start at Schalke or Birmingham? That's what I want to know. Some point in their career.
Nobody starts at Birmingham.
Harry Kane's got a secret picture of him in a Birmingham kit.
Just Schalke.
Okay. Well, it's poor from Everton anyway. They need a swift kick up the arse or a punch in the face from a man holding a toddler. But hey, that's technically already happened. Who are your guys' favourites to replace Koeman at this moment in time? Who would you get in? And don't say David Moyes because that's a meme at this point. That's not a literal. That can't actually be real.
I want Everton to really go out there and say they want to do something within the Premier League because they've shown that with the signings that they can sign decent players. Of course, Koeman couldn't get the best out of them, but I really want to see Carlo Ancelotti. So, I was saying that just when it got sacked, there's a perfect opportunity for Carlo Ancelotti to try and get back into the Premier League. Whether it's going to be at Everton or if Wenger is going at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think he definitely probably prefers the Arsenal job out of those two. Of course, linked with the AC Milan job as well, if that's going to come under vacancy soon. What about you, Michael? You got any favourites at this point?
No, I agree with Elias in that I think the actual Bucky's favourite is Sean Dyche at the moment. But I think you've got to set your heights higher than that because Sean Dyche is he does things with squads he shouldn't do, and that's not what Everton need to aim for.
Mm.
I've just realised how bad that sounded. Okay, but Sean Dyche isn't the manager that needs to be. He's not the right manager.
Right.
You've got to set your sights higher, and then I mean, think another favourite I've heard mentioned is Eddie Howe. I guess that's showing some sort of like it's a potential manager, but I agree he's got to go for the board have got to go for someone like Ancelotti, or I don't even know who else is available that's like huge.
I mean,
Van Gaal. He's like available, isn't he?
the problem I see with like the Ancelotti mention, I don't know why he would go there. Like,
Yeah,
me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Chris Coleman.
no, he was mentioned with the Leicester job. He's met
right.
unofficially with the Wales FA to talk about that. So
I think they'll approach Sean Dyche. If I was Sean Dyche, I'd turn that job down in an instant. Personally, like you've brought your team so far, Burnley like shaping it yourself. It just seemed, I don't know, it seemed like
I don't know. I think Everton is the.
Would it be a good...
I think Everton's the natural stepping stone. Like, if he realistically wants a top job, I think to do well with a club like Everton, Southampton, or Newcastle, like a team like that, would be the natural stepping stone to
But
like
it's
a
not
Liverpool.
his style of play at all. Like,
I know it's not, but that's
it's like the
chance of
Palace thing. It's like the Palace thing with De Boer. It's like you. I don't know.
I feel like the Palace thing's like the thing with Dyche is like, I think in his head it's like, will he ever get offered a bigger job than Everton in his career? And because he's
Maybe
sort of
so.
unfashionable, I'm not sure he will.
No, I agree with that. I think naturally Eddie Howe suits Everton better, but I don't know. I think it's a debatable one. The Bournemouth performances this season.
Yeah. Well, we'll get onto Bournemouth a little bit later, but yeah, 5-2 to Arsenal, and then level on points with Chelsea. Well, we'll go on to Chelsea then. Actually, we'll completely ignore the running order.
Brilliant!
Because that was sort of the natural segue. Because we had to.
Sean Dyche was the transition. The Sean Dyche thing was your transition.
I completely missed that. But I've said we moved on to Chelsea now, so we are. I apologise. Ruined everything. But the Koeman thing just messed everything up, and now the flow's gone. Chelsea 4, Watford 2. Two very established managers in this division now, Conte and Marco Silva, going head to head. Chelsea coming into this one after dropping a 2-goal lead to Roma and having to settle for a 3-3 draw there. Well, they probably took it by the time full time coming around. A frantic game. One, Chelsea fans perhaps were worried about at one point. And what do we think? Chelsea get fortunate, or were they always going to win this game? Really, the stuff for champions.
Super fortunate.
Yeah.
Richarlison missed so many open goals that game. I'm so happy that it wasn't like 5-1 at half time.
No, he missed 2 open goals from like 6 yards out. One with his head, wasn't it, and one with his right foot. Goodness me.
Was it 4? Would they have been like 4-1 up? I think.
Well, the header was at 1-1, and then the he could have made it 3-1 at one point.
You're 3-1 then, yeah.
So would have been hard to see Chelsea come back from that, considering how not poorly they were playing, but how almost well Watford were playing. There was some sort of, I mean, what did you think? What did Chelsea? I mean, Batshuayi's substitution obviously made a difference because he scored a big goal, which levelled it up. And then obviously Azpilicueta scored to make it 3-2. What was the changing point in this game, Ellis? I assume you watched most of it.
Well, it was definitely Azpilicueta moving over to the left side, and Zappacosta and Michy Batshuayi coming in. Zappacosta, the first touch he has, he puts in a great ball. Could have easily resulted in a goal if Batshuayi just got there like 1 millisecond earlier. And Azpilicueta getting on the left wing instead of Marcos Alonso, who is having probably one of the worst seasons I've ever seen from a left back. He is looking sluggish. He's looking like he's never played football before. He's looking like the Sunderland Marcos Alonso that we saw a few years ago. But Batshuayi, with his first goal, he really reminded me of the Drogba approach with his header, just getting in front of the defender, and I was really happy for him because he's been struggling a bit.
Sorry, Michael, was you going to say something?
No, I think the only thing I have to add, I think the thing that made the difference was just players that weren't tired being on the pitch. I know Zappacosta played against Roma, but I don't think he played the full game, did he, Elias?
He started.
Yeah, but still, regardless, Batshuayi
Yeah.
obviously was on the bench, and for me, it was like that was the final piece of the jigsaw. Sorry, just a player that wasn't that hadn't played midweek made the difference, especially coming on like against a Watford team that had worked so hard throughout the game. They were probably tired mentally as well after just only have scored 2, when they probably should have scored more. Or definitely should have scored more.
So you think that European football was the reason for this sort of almost sloppy performance? I don't want to say sloppy, but it wasn't.
I think it's a
dominating.
major benefactor. That Chelsea just looked a step behind what they usually do, like individual players. So, yeah, I think Chelsea still do have a big problem with their defence, though.
Yeah.
Cahill, mainly. Would you isolate Cahill as the problem, Elias?
Cahill and Luis. Luis is having pretty, like, even though he scored midweek against Roma, that was the only good thing he did in that game, really. And he was really far behind when he tried to defend, and got really frustrated when he got subbed off in the 70th minute. Excuse me. And I just think you should at least get Christensen in that defense, in the middle there. Cahill probably needs to sit on the bench for a few games, because it's just like he tries to drive the ball upfield and he just hasn't got the pace to get back. And you can really see with Watford's first goal, he tracks a run across, and he's the left centre back. So there's a massive space in the middle, which a Watford attacker can get in and just like put it in an open air, pretty much, just 1-on-1 with the what's it called, the Pereira goal. And it's just such a mistake, because if you look at the replay, there is 4 Chelsea players around 1 Watford player, and then Cahill comes in as well, tries to track that run, and just leaves the middle completely open. So I don't know. I don't really know what Cahill can do better at this point. It just feels like he's completely out of the game, and just needs
to
watch.
Do you think it's age that's not getting to him as such, but do you think he is losing that half a yard, and it's frustrating him that he can't bring the ball forward as he used to and things like that? So he's almost trying to repeat it, just frustrating himself.
I feel like he tries to do too much, and especially if he's playing out left now in this 3 centre-back system, and I just don't think he's quick enough to do that. I think he needs to play that Luis role in the middle, and he'll probably do better, but he hasn't got the positional play to be out wide, and he definitely doesn't play well with Alonso. So I wouldn't say age, he's only 31. He turned 32 this year, but it looks like he needs some either rest or just a different approach.
Yeah,
because it looked really good when we went back to a fullback, and that's probably something that Conte will look at until next game. Because when we went back to a fullback, he actually could stay. Of course, Watford wasn't really attacking at that point when Chelsea tried to get back into the game and win it. But it just looks so much more composed.
Well, I suppose the only problem with a fullback is if he goes to like a 3 in midfield. I mean, I suppose he could push Luis into the midfield, but with the injuries and stuff, it's quite hard to fill that with, what he would want in there.
Danny Drinkwater's back training now, so that'll be probably a plus.
But he is an unproven commodity. He still hasn't played for you yet, I don't think, has he? So
he's proven in the Premier League, though, and that's why I think he'll fit in quite nicely. He seems like an adaptable player. And, of course, it's the deep line playmaker / box-to-box. Either way you want to use him, he's good with the ball. He's really composed, so I think it's going to be a good addition.
Well, we'll see. Hope he is good, because obviously he'd be beneficial to England at the World Cup. Another player who would be beneficial to England if he's in form, John Stones, has come out and said he believes the competition for places is the reason for Manchester City scoring so many goals. Didn't have it all their own way against Burnley though. Only 3-0, which is something you can only really say about Man City. Was it a discipline display almost, or was it sort of Burnley frustrating Man City? What do you think was going? Why wasn't this the free-flowing Man City we've seen so far this season? Do you think it's just Burnley stifling them a little bit?
I guess you could probably put it down to that. I think it took them longer to really find a system to really break down Burnley. Like, it took them until the second half to properly break them down. So you could probably say a bit of Burnley resilience, and then as Burnley tired, it became a lot easier.
Yeah.
But they still never like Burnley were never really in the game like at all. But like Man City, while they controlled it, they never looked like like they took over it as they usually do, scoring 4 or 5. With that, it sounds a stupid way of putting it because obviously City did completely take over the game, but in the usual circumstances at City, they didn't take it over; they just controlled the ball.
Yeah,
they were as maybe as like direct as previous games.
Yeah, but it's like we said about Burnley; they want the opposition to have the ball, and when they do sit back, Burnley is. I mean, it is currently what Dyche is doing. Their sit back, grab an odd 1 or 2 goals really on up the other end, and 1-0s, 1-1s, 2-1s. He'll take them all. The only problem with that is obviously when you sit back, you're relying on everyone to be disciplined, and literally one mistake can cause you a goal. We saw that against for Ben Mee against West Ham, gifting Antonio and West Ham a goal, which we'll come to them in a minute. They need all the goals they can get. But Nick Pope. Is it Powell? It's Pope, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, he fouled Bernardo Silva. I mean, I'm going to say that's a mistake. I think any time a goalkeeper comes out, doesn't win the ball, I think it's a mistake. So, I mean, Sean Dyche was quite firm almost against Bernardo Silva's reaction, I'll say. I think we all agree it's a penalty. It's a clear penalty, isn't it? He may overreact, but it's a clear penalty.
I thought you were going to come to me as a resident goalkeeping expert, who you referred to me as, but I'm glad you avoided it. No, it is. Reaction or not, this contact is a penalty.
Yeah, like what you didn't see on the replay, on like the first time you looked at it, was that he actually clatters Bernardo Silva's right foot, and that is probably why. Well, Sean Dyche probably have seen replays by now, I hope, and probably feels a bit bad about saying that, but of course it's Sean Dyche. I don't know if he has any remorse.
Well, he said some interesting things. He was talking about, I'll read the quote. He said, for him to get that high off the floor when your hands are above your head is a skill in itself. If I kicked my kid in the garden, he wouldn't fall like that. There has been a bit of what I'd call honour in the game, and that's out the window because it's not there. There's contact, but you can't fall as a 13-stone professional footballer. How can you fall when someone touches you that softly? But I seem to be the only one who wants to change that. So he had some words against, was it Huddersfield the other week, talking about the retrospective action, not being a fan of that. It's just, I feel like at this point to not accept diving as it is comical. I understand the frustrations because for him it's a big margin, that goal, but I feel like it's obviously a penalty, and it's kind of a pointless argument almost, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, whatever you feel about diving, it's still in the game, and that's what they're trying to. Well, they're trying to get it out with a retroactive action and stuff like that. But it will always be there, even though people can get banned for it after the game. But if you go out and make comments like that without even seeing what's happening, then it's just a bit embarrassing, I think.
Yeah.
His arguments are relevant. He doesn't want to mention if there's actual a dispute over the decision. He just mentions the reaction of it. So.
Yeah. Well, I always go back, when in this situation like this, I always go back to that Jay Rodriguez penalty incident this season against Arsenal, where he stayed on his feet and he didn't get the penalty and West Brom didn't score.
Exactly. That's why do players do it?
Yeah, and we'll talk about Harry Kane could have had the opportunity to go down as well and didn't. We'll come to that as well. I mean, his ended with a goal, so a slightly different example. But It's like appealing. The way to appeal for a foul is to go to ground. That's just the way it is. Like, it's like shouting "How's that?" in cricket or whatever. Like it doesn't need to be done, but that's the way you get the referee's attention, and that's the way it is. But Manchester City pulling 5 points clear at the top now due to Manchester United slipping up, and woo! I don't think anyone predicted this result. Huddersfield 2, Manchester United 1. Mourinho coming out saying the best team won. Agree with that?
Yeah.
On the day, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Moy and De Porto really proving their worth for Huddersfield.
Yeah, and people arguing that why is De Porto starting if they got like Steve Munier back, who is proven that he can score in the Premier League pretty decently. Of course, De Porto has scored as well, but Munier, of course, with the first goals for Huddersfield, looks like a really good striker. I really want to see Huddersfield play with both of them up front, because Munier's got a bit more pace, and De Porto is more of a the target player. But De Porto really showed that he can do damage in the Premier League. I think he is a monster on the ball.
I feel like De Porto is someone who probably does more than Munier. I'm going to put myself out there. I did say in the first game of the season that they could be the only 2 goals Munier scores this season, and could be right at this point. Not that I'm gloating, but yeah, Huddersfield really looking good. And Michael, you mentioned last episode the momentum they gained and have probably carried through from their promotion had worn off. But this is going to give them a big boost, and they could go on a little run here now.
Yeah, it's a way to reignite it, and they took the opportunity to do it when it was available. Obviously they're going to get beaten by teams that are going to put out solid performances, but a weak Manchester United that made mistakes, they took full advantage of that as well, which will also fill them with a lot of confidence in that we can do it and we're not scared of these big teams, obviously, which it's like added confidence bonus beating not just any team but Manchester United.
One of those big
salt in the wounds almost kind of thing, and United's wounds.
No, yeah, it is. One of those big glaring mistakes was a fellow Swede, Elias. Lindelof had an absolute shocking game. Coming on for the injured Phil Jones, of course. That's going to be a big miss if he's out for a long time.
I called it.
It's the cycle.
I called it. It's the cycle of Phil Jones.
But another big
brilliant
miss
start to the season. Possible England goal. Phil Jones injury.
Yeah, no, true. Another big miss has been Fellaini, though. 6 games he's played in the Premier League, 6 wins. Without him, they've drawn twice, lost once. So proving a big miss. But yeah, he's going to be a huge miss for him, guys, isn't he, Phil Jones?
But Phil Jones definitely. But I don't know, Fellaini, I don't think would have made a difference in this game, because it's like Fellaini usually comes on to make. I don't think you can
say that fairly, though, because it would have been a complete different setup.
Fellaini's not 100 yet set up, admittedly, but I get Fellaini probably would be starting because of Pogba being out, but Fellaini in United's full strength sits on the bench and comes on late in the game as a problem, and the game was already lost by that point.
I don't know. I feel like Fellaini starts a game like this. I feel like, considering the form he was in, he would have started this game and against Liverpool.
I disagree.
Well, I mean, if Pogba was fit, then you could also make an argument
because they might have turned them over 4 or 5-0. But
that's true. That's a good point.
Because Phil Jones would have been. Yeah, it's a ridiculous argument. Let's back off that one.
I'm just saying Fellaini's key for him, and they're going to miss him.
I'm backing down from my argument because it was a really stupid point to make.
I mean, the depth is there for Manchester United. They're just not using it. That's the problem. He wants to continue using like Ashley Young on the wing or whatever.
Could have put Blind centre back.
True. I mean, Lindelof. I think Lindelof is obviously a promising young player. He's got a lot there. It's just one of those ones where perhaps he isn't. He'll come into his own. I'm pretty. If he's given time, he'll come into his own. He'll be a very good Premier League defender, I imagine. But
he has a really strange head, though, and I can't get over that when watching him. He's just got this his head just sort of ends. I know there's like a subreddit where it's like gifs that end too early or something like that, and it's like his head's kind of like that. It's just like chin, mouth, nose, eyes, finish. It's like, where's the rest?
His head ends too early. Is that what?
Yeah,
I thought you meant there was a gif of Lindelof that wasn't around anymore.
You're speaking of ridiculous arguments.
So that is why
that's why you missed a header.
Footballer.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's why you missed it. Yeah,
exactly. If you'd have had that extra half an inch of head.
Jeez. Well, there you go. I think we sometimes forget about the pressure you get from putting on a Manchester United shirt. I mean, I would know, um,
Okay.
but I think there's something still to be said with that.
Mm.
Maybe not. But they got Spurs next, Manchester United, and I think the way these two teams set up this weekend probably got 0-0 written all over it. But we'll come back to that next weekend after the 4-3 thriller. Spurs 4, Liverpool 1. We'll go to Wembley. Goodness me, both teams had huge successes midweek.
Now, you're not allowed to talk about Tottenham. You decided this before the podcast.
I'm not allowed to introduce the game. It's for you two
No.
to talk about, like I do every other game. Like
No.
not me being. I'm literally being unbiased. I'm just, setting up the stage
Okay, give
for you
us
guys.
the unbiased rundown.
Okay.
Let's go.
So both teams coming in with a very fantastic midweek success. Well, successes, depending on your point of view. Spurs getting a big point away to Real Madrid. Liverpool with a record 7-0 win away to Maribor. The two teams set up interestingly. Aurier started left back, which is I assume to counter Salah's pace. Would probably agree with that. But Liverpool starting up with a usual pressing style, and Spurs seemed okay to just let Liverpool have the ball, and then when Liverpool had the ball, they didn't know what to do.
Oh, have you done talking about Spurs?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm done. I laid out the game for you, and then you just refused to talk. That's not my
and you know
fault, is
what?
it?
No, I'm actually going to. It's going to be strange, but an argument you put on Twitter about Poch's game plan being that Tottenham were just going to hit Liverpool on the break, and you hit the nail on the head. The game plan was perfect. Like, it really worked perfect. Exposing Liverpool's defence. Sorry to talk about it again, but can't avoid it. And to use Son's pace over the top. It's just, and even just use Harry Kane as a bully to just bully off Liverpool defenders. It perfectly worked.
I mean,
It was easy. Like, they had a game plan, they executed it, job done. Like, it was not it was just like they dismissed Liverpool. It wasn't.
I'd like to defend myself and just say I didn't just put long balls over the top. So it was a bit more in depth in my tactical.
Yeah, of course. As
analysis
in
of it.
in layman's terms, in short podcast terms.
But this is Spurs' lowest possession stat of the season, 36% possession.
Oh, damn it, I was going to read
They
that
were-
out. Similar to the game against Dortmund, of course.
Yeah, well, literally like I put on the running notes, which I've shown
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Yeah, Spurs literally were happy to give the ball to Liverpool because Liverpool were going to press them anyway and win the ball high up the pitch. And you saw that with the Salah goal, how they got the ball in Spurs' half and immediately, bang, on the break, Salah through goal. But Spurs were just happy to get the ball and then get rid of it quickly, go long quickly to Son, and with Kane's strength and holding up ability and Son's pace, they were just happy to hit him on the break over and over again. And like you said, similar to the Dortmund game, Spurs are becoming very comfortable without the ball as well as with the ball, and that's such a huge. I think Spurs probably are. I mean, this is going to come across as incredibly biased, but I think Spurs have probably the most versatile manager and squad at this point in the Premier League season.
It pains me to agree because I was going to say that having the injection of pace of Aurier and even having Sanchez's, I know obviously he's like a new signing, but having Sanchez's pace as well to counter that, you're right. The squad and management versatility is evident in games like this, and even it just works so well because Vertonghen and Alderweireld's passing actually was. I'm going to say I'm not going to say it's been bad recently because it obviously hasn't, but it's not what it was last season. It was back again, and like the long balls over the top were almost like perfectly planted where they needed to be. And Trippier's unbelievable. His progress as a fullback is like unbelievable. He's so well rounded now.
He had a really tricky start to the season, didn't he?
Yeah.
But now he's got Aurier with the rotation. I think he's really, it's like he's back with Walker again. Admittedly, Aurier's nowhere near as good as Walker, I don't believe. But at least he's got that rotation and, the fighting for places as well. But yeah, I think Kane as well deserves a bit of credit in this game because he showed he's not just. It really annoys me when pundits compare him to Alan Shearer because he's so much better in terms of actual build-up play. And he's used to play as a number 10. He's played out wide in his youth career. He's so good on the ball. He isn't just this poacher, which I think gets misconstrued quite a lot, and it's actually quite frustrating. But Thierry Henry said in the studio that Lovren was actually scared of Harry Kane. Personally, I thought he was scared of the ball, especially for the second goal. He tried to go for that header and completely missed it.
Did he duck or just miss it?
I think he just
did you hear what
missed it.
Klopp said as well?
Yeah. Go on.
I can't remember it exactly, but it was like, if I was in Lovren's position on the pitch, then Tottenham definitely wouldn't have scored a second goal today, or something like that. And it's just like, God, you could tell that Lovren really got a stripping down after that, because when Klopp comes out and says something like that, you know that it's going to be in the changing room. And then, sorry, can you just come over with a private word, please?
Do you not see that as unprofessional, saying something like that, though?
That's what I mean, though. It's like throwing. So it's like a police sergeant blaming everything on his officer. You know what I mean? Like, you have to at some point, your responsibility is to take a lot of pressure off those players, and you don't have an alternative. Lovren has been an issue for a while. It's because you have no alternative. You can't continually throw him under the bus because he's not going to improve.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He shot it.
It's his
Klopp
fault.
Shot himself in the foot because he's in this position. He didn't sign a centre back, so you can't continually throw the centre backs under the bus. Yeah.
I think the thing that annoyed me most about the comment is we'll go to like Antonio Conte. I mean, he probably has said this in the past just to like make my point invalid, but I feel like he doesn't have to say that because he had such a distinguished playing career. You know, Mauricio Pochettino's played for Argentina. He doesn't have to. You know what I mean? I feel like the fact that Klopp is saying this, it's almost like he's trying to make himself bigger than the players, and I think that's kind of probably the wrong way to manage a team, especially a team with the individuals of Liverpool, who don't really. I feel like demeaning them doesn't really do anything. It seems like he's trying to save his own skin.
If you're looking to make big name signings, they've got to sign a centre back at some point, Liverpool, to solve the problems, and it's not a great advert because players are just going to think, well, shit, if I make a mistake, it's that's the reality of it.
He was talking a lot about second and third balls as well, saying how Spurs were getting to the second and third balls a lot more than he would have liked. And I think he's had this in his managerial career. His focus, especially since coming to England, his focus on the second ball and winning that second header and things like that. It's obviously a transitional problem with Liverpool. They're obviously not quite quick enough. I think Lovren as well has missed a couple of weeks training because of these head injuries he's been having or back injuries with the things he's taking the painkillers for. There's obviously something wrong with Liverpool beyond the individuals at the back, because Klopp is clearly, with this interview, he showed that he is trying to teach his players about this second ball thing and the transitions and stuff like that, and it's just not getting through to them, especially the back four specifically. I don't know. It just seems frustrating. And when Jimmy Traore's tweeting about your defence, problems are there. I mean, that's all we can say. Maradona was in the house for Wembley though. Someone who would give those Liverpool players an absolute fright. Probably still in his current condition as well. But yeah, he featured in a photo of Andres Iniesta in the Barcelona changing rooms. That was interesting. I don't know if you saw that, guys, but it was an interesting picture. And then on the you could see on the lockers behind him, it showed the names of previous players who had the individual lockers. And Piqué's had some pretty big names in it, including Maradona's. Likes of Guardiola was on there as well, which was quite interesting to see. Barcelona come out 2-0 winners over the weekend, and Deulofeu scoring his first goal for Everton. For Barcelona, the former Everton man. Really? But did you see Dyche? The cross for that goal, Dyche absolutely went miles out of the play. I don't know if it's unbelievable.
VAR.
But bring it in. I've always been an advocate for VAR. An advocate.
Every week I think our stance changes.
An advocate.
It's like Ronald Koeman, really, isn't it? Last week we were like, oh yeah, Koeman in. This week we're Koeman out.
I mean, I want to distance myself as far away from those comments.
You are Klopp. You are Klopp. That's what you are. She's like, well, I mean, it was my co-host's fault. I didn't say anything.
All I'm saying is, if I was in charge of Everton, I'd still be there. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, Ronaldo still only scored one goal in La Liga. Not doing well. But hey, I'm sure once they sign Harry Kane, all their problems will be solved.
You'll get Modric,
Bale, and Benzema.
Yeah, something like that.
Package deal.
Yeah,
a package
like
deal.
A Cook holiday to London.
I mean, I'd take it if I didn't have to. If it was all inclusive, I'd take it. But if I still have to spend 300 grand on wages, I wouldn't. Goodness me, that's insane. Oh wow! From the dizzy heights of Barcelona to the dizzy mountains of Wales and Swansea. I don't even know if there's any mountains in Swansea. Probably not. But
It was raining. You can use it as well.
Raining. There was a storm. Wales. It rains. Swansea, because sea is full of water and rain is water. Yep. Swansea 1, Leicester 2. A big win for Leicester. Michael Appleton, the new man in charge. For the time being. Shakespeare sacked. Koeman taking away his thunder. We were going to have a Shakespeare-themed episode today, and Ronald Koeman.
Just speaking Shakespearean English.
Yes.
That would be amazing. We should do that.
There was a manager called Craig. That's not Shakespeare. That's like a limerick. But anyway, what do we think of Shakespeare sacking then? Leicester having trouble with results, but they weren't really playing badly, were they? And when you pair this up with the Adrian Silva signing debacle, the board, it seems a bit, perhaps, not as professional as it should be there, maybe. I don't know if you guys agree.
I still think Craig Shakespeare, was he really ever a manager to take over a Premier League team? He had a really good start, but if you're not getting results in the Premier League, even though you can play well, but if you're not getting any results for playing well, why do you even try?
Why are you there? Just go away.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say it was a comedy of errors for put Shakespeare in charge.
I don't get that.
It's a play.
Shakespeare is a play.
That is far too... You are just...
Well, it ended in a tragedy way.
Well, love for Labour's lost.
Over my head, viewers.
Just stop us.
I'm not one for the theatre. I've only seen Les Mis, and that was on VHS.
Only delivers post.
Brilliant. Out me. There's a young manager in the French league who I think would be interested in this sacking. The Nantes manager, Nantes currently sit third. Do you think he'd be interested in taking the job? Maybe. I think his name is Claudio Ranieri. Claudio Ranieri. Don't know if you've heard of him, guys, but he's got some resume on him.
I love how you say Nantes.
Nantes.
Sounds like nonce.
Yeah, I can't.
sorry, Nantes. Nantes currently sitting third in that league. But yeah, just ahead of Lyon. Lyon won a game, and Memphis Depay scored a hat-trick. What do we think about that?
Sign him. Oh, yeah, United.
Well, all's well that ends. I'm going to stop. I can't.
Shakespeare in love. Well, there you go. That's the only Shakespeare-related thing I know. So, yeah. Swansea lost 2-1. Starting Renato Sanchez, and they lost. Is Renato Sanchez the most overrated young player of all time?
Oh God, it's
either him or James Rodriguez.
James Rodriguez is great.
I still think he's massively overrated. He had a good World Cup, and then
Euros.
Yeah. Europe. What? No, I did say Euros.
You said World
didn't
Cup?
I? Yeah, James Rodriguez.
Oh, we're talking about Renato Sanchez. I'm sorry.
I did say once in a podcast. I think James Rodriguez had a good Euros though.
Probably.
You did. I remember that.
I imagine there has been a James Rodriguez who's played for someone in the Euros before.
James Rodriguez, Jay Rodriguez.
Jay Rodriguez. He won't be there.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But you know who might be there? Glenn Murray. Glenn Murray, he scored twice for Brighton.
No. Oh.
Is Glenn Murray world class?
Oh, me and Elliot mentioned this in the running order. Why has Phil put that Glenn Murray is world class?
But
he is.
Yeah, I think so. He's got to be worth at least talk about him on the plane, possibly in place of Daniel Sturridge. We don't know. But in all seriousness, West Ham 0, Brighton 3, a bitter result for West Ham and one that will sting. West Ham, I'm going to put up there with Everton as the worst attacking side in the league. Those two are specific. West Ham just how are they going to score? Hernandez is sitting there. All he needs is a chance, and he doesn't get them. That's how bad they are.
I'm going to pose the question to you: Bilic out?
The reports coming out recently. He apparently offered his resignation to the players and said, "If you want me to go, I'll go." So
at that point, surely the board has to act on that.
I think earlier today they were talking about sacking him, and then they came out and said no, they're going to give him to the end of the season.
They said that they're going to see out his 3-year contract, haven't they?
Well,
they firmly said that he will see out his 3-year contract.
There's a reason they're known as the Dildo Brothers, isn't there? Really?
I think there's other reasons amongst that.
I'm sure there are that haven't come to light as of yet. But sorry, let's go on.
Talk about Glenn Murray.
Yeah, I just feel like David Gold. It's just so weird to me, like as an owner, and I just feel like Bilic, if he does that to his players, that is basically giving up, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah,
and he feels like he can't do anything more in this team, and I just feel like it's time to go if you do that. If it's confirmed, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's just reports, I believe. But yeah, I mean, you look at the attitude of Arnautovic. Perhaps it's like maybe that's because of the Bilic, like almost like he's almost resigned in himself. Almost like there's just a lack of. I don't want to say desire because I hate talking in terms like desire and passion and all that. It's kind of bollocks, really. But I think just he's just almost bored. Like he just, he feels like.
He looks bored.
Yeah, like. I mean, we'll move away from that board and to the other side of the game. Brighton looked absolutely amazing. The discipline, especially Izquierdo, and he scored a very nice goal. But the entire Brighton play, I think Sky was Jamie Carragher specifically was talking about Duncan Duffy's defensive. Well, that's alliteration. Duncan Duffy's defensive displays and how good they are at blocking shots specifically, and like it just seems so good as a unit. And I said this when Brighton came up, like they're going to be like one of those teams, not stunning individuals, but they're going to be a unit and really going to test teams. And I think like at home I thought that would be the case, but here away from home, coming away with a 3-0 win against an established Premier League side, it's a big present for Houghton on his 100th Premier League game.
B-Tech Burnley.
B-Tech Burnley. What, Brighton?
Yeah.
Are you just saying B-Tech because you want to get alliteration and no other reason?
Yeah, well, what else?
I mean, no, I think there's differences between Burnley and Brighton. I think Brighton have a bit more flair to their game. I think
beautiful Brighton. Yeah.
Beautiful, bossy Brighton. Bilic.
Brilliant.
Bugger.
Bilic bugger!
It's because I've run out of words. But yeah, no, I think the Brighton and Burnley comparison's there, but I feel like you can make the comparison with a lot of teams who are going to struggle in this league and like play that way. I don't think there's anything wrong with being disciplined, and I certainly at this point in the season don't see it as a derogatory thing being compared to Burnley at all.
Oh no,
really.
not at all. I didn't mean it in a derogatory way. I think it's like the emerging tactic to stop big or just to win games in the Premier League.
Well, yeah, it's always been there, really, hasn't it? Since the
beginning
of
time. I think this season particularly it's showing.
I think I don't know about that. I mean, it's obviously there. It's been there in the past. Because Big Sam was at the Crystal Palace last season. You can't tell me that that's not the reason they stayed up, sort of thing. I just think it's the fact that Dyche is the manager who's sort of. I mean, maybe because he's English, I don't know, but he's sort of the one the spotlight's on at the moment. I think because he's been sort of at the club the longest sort of time, he's sort of kept Burnley almost overachieved with Burnley over the last few years, hasn't he? I think it's fair to say. But yeah, I think there's managers that are better at it certainly than Houghton. But yeah, I think there's certainly a bit more attacking flair to this Brighton side when you look at players like Knockaert as well. But yeah, I mean, you might disagree, and that's fine. We're still friends despite this disagreement. Two players that aren't friends are Campos and Neymar. They had a little bit of a coming together, didn't they, guys, in the PSG game?
Argentinians versus Brazilians. It's just classic.
It's classic. The Marseille against PSG, of course, is a La Classique, as the French would say, probably. Sent off for a headbutt. Well, it was actually a second yellow for some reason, even though he headbutted the guy. Head to cheek, it was. It was 10. Wait, do you not think this is a sending off?
No. Oh, no. Don't get me wrong. I do. But I don't think a head was particularly.
What would you call it then? A head caress? A head rub?
I don't know.
A headbutt, wouldn't you? Would you call it a headbutt?
No, it is a head. It is a headbutt. I can't. Yeah, it's like a kiss on the cheek with too much force. Overzealous.
With his forehead.
Yeah, an overzealous bump.
Right. Okay. Overzealous bump. We're going with. Is that a bookable offence? An overzealous bump?
Yes,
Okay.
very
Good.
much so. It's actually written in the book.
The bump book. But yeah, do you think he'll be more annoyed at the fact that he was sent off for the head, or more annoyed at the fact that Cavani scored a stunning free
Yeah, I was
kick
gonna
late on to
say.
draw the game?
Yeah, I think that's probably what annoyed him more. It's like, damn rats, I didn't lose them the game.
Goodness me. You just got to love Neymar, really, haven't you?
The
He's
whole
just
PSG thing's just become it's like a reality TV show. It wouldn't surprise me if they brought out like Paris Shaw at the end of the year, and it was just that Paris Shaw Jaman.
Paris Saint-Germain, lovely. I'm sure that'll go down well with the fans. But yeah, I mean, this is sort of our Neymar natter, isn't it, guys? Like we're trying to we're forcing it in at I mean, we're not actually at this point. He's actually making it very
writes
easy for us.
itself, yeah.
But next week's going to be hard considering he's not on the pitch. Currently going on at this moment in time is the FIFA awards, so Player of the Year and all that, and he is up for that. But whilst getting sent off, he said that Marseille fans threw baguettes at him. So there's always something going on with that man. Another red card. Leonardo Bonucci saw red for AC Milan in their 0-0 draw. Was sent off with VAR. It was actually missed completely, this elbow. And it was a nasty elbow as well. Caught him right with the point. And drew blood as well. I can't remember who he headbutted. My apologies. Hopefully he remembers. But yeah, it went back to VAR and sent him off. The ref did the old TV motion. Yeah, it wasn't the only VAR red card this week either. Mandzukic. Did you see this one? Mandzukic got sent. Well, he got sent. Let me tell you about it, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
Mario Mandzukic was sent off for a. I think they went back to the VAR. He got booked for a challenge, and then I think he sarcastically clapped the referee, or just kept going on at him, and got a second yellow card within 5 seconds of the first one. And I mean, it was funny. I mean, Massimiliano Allegri, I'll call him. Allegri actually thanked him for getting sent off because Juventus went on to win 6-2. A Sami Khedira hat-trick as well.
That is the worst thing that has ever happened to football.
What a Sami Khedira hat-trick.
How has that even happened? That's why, he can score some wonders. He's shown that in the World Cup and stuff, but he doesn't score 3 goals. There's something wrong with the other team if that happens.
Especially with 10 men as well. But no, Mario Mandzukic's getting booked twice within 3 seconds. It reminds me of the. Do you remember Chris Baird getting sent off twice? Because he tackled someone, they played the advantage, and then he tackled him again, and then got booked twice.
Well, you go back to the FIFA rules. If there's an advantage, you can't get sent off, so you can just go in for that. Like Chris Baird did.
Maybe that's how we thought the rules worked.
Oh, but ref.
But
it's bullshit.
But a huge hat-trick for Khedira, to be fair, and a huge win for Juve, who, because Napoli and Inter drew 0-0, they actually get back in reach of those two, of Napoli anyway, at the top of the league. We'll move to Newcastle, then we'll sum up the rest of these Premier League games. Newcastle 1, Crystal Palace 0. Crystal Palace are back.
Say business as usual. Go on, I dare you.
Business as usual. But not for Newcastle, because they could get taken over very shortly. It's been written in the wings. There's a lot of rumours going around. What do you think we can expect from Newcastle if they get taken over, guys? What do you think they'll go?
I want to hear from Newcastle fans if they are really happy about this, because I would probably be super stoked if this was actually gonna happen. Because Mike Ashley, he doesn't care about the club, does he? He only cares about making those moolah.
Yeah, well, and those mugs as well, those giant Sports Direct mugs.
Yeah. Well, they're amazing, to be honest. I could take a few more.
Just get a couple. 1-0 win for Newcastle then. And we mentioned about Brighton and Burnley's setup. Newcastle really proving their worth with their tactical setup and their tactical nous as well. And Rafa Benitez doing really well there, to be fair. They're almost under the radar how well they're doing. I think they're having a very good season. They can be proud of themselves.
I thought you were going to see champions.
Well, they could be champions.
I have seen so many articles about, can Rafa Benitez do it with Newcastle, like Ranieri did with Leicester?
Sleeping Giants.
Yeah. I don't know.
They're currently 11 points
No.
behind Man City.
Yeah, I'm going to put that to bed now.
Yeah, he hasn't got the attacking players to be a top squad, I think.
Yeah, Joslu's not going to go on a Vardy run, let's be honest.
Ayosa Perez won't really score 30 goals a season. Will he?
The £5 million like talisman strike, I don't think he's quite up to it. With all due respect.
To be fair to Joslu, he has more league goals than Cristiano Ronaldo this season, so...
You've been waiting to say something like that all night, haven't you?
I have. I was just waiting for it to be set up because I didn't research who had more goals than Cristiano Ronaldo this season. But I think that's the one that covers the comical, sort of range well enough.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that Joselu is terrible.
Well, the shows us more as well, that means.
But
I could see them. I could see Lascelles being really good for a few years going forward now. But if he doesn't leave Newcastle, then I think Newcastle will be a decent side in the Premier League for quite a while now. And I don't know if I hope so, because I don't really feel like an affection to Newcastle. Like I do to the newcomers, but that's probably because of Mike Ashley and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Newcastle can stay in the Premier League for quite a while now. What?
Lascelles? Cahill's replacement?
Oh no!
What?
I was actually going to say that, but I was going to say not that, but I was going to say if Alex Ferguson was still in charge of Man United, that would so be the player he would just get really early in the window.
Yeah.
But Elias, you did say Newcastle fans will be stoked with that takeover, so...
Well, I hope so. I don't know if they are.
Well, I was just going to say, if they're stoked. People that aren't stoked are stoked because they lost 2-1 to Bournemouth. A boring Bournemouth. Bournemouth.
Yep. Oh, jeez.
That was forced. Goodness me. But Elias, Bournemouth back to their best with a very nice first goal, to be fair.
Yeah, but really, I just they grind out wins like United do usually. Probably not this season. They've been pretty well, but it just feels like Eddie Howe is becoming the new the English Mourinho, or something like that. And they're not interesting. I think. Well, they're interesting that they're getting wins, but I don't know.
Michael, I think we're going to have to do some sort of background checks on Elias and find out what his beef is with Bournemouth. If he's had some form of crazy history there or something. There's definitely something there going on. It's just, it seems.
Come on, cut them some slack. They got back to their best, as Phil put it.
Yeah, back to their best. I actually edited it to Bournemouth back. And please stop telling the bloody on notes. Mama Biram Juve goal machine bracket thigh bracket scored with his thigh, so that was good. Mama Biram Juve.
That was the worst goal I have ever seen in a while. That was worse than the Peter Crouch goal that was scored a few weeks ago, and it's still Stoke scoring these goals.
Wasn't it? I seem to remember it was quite a nice build-up, but it just went in off his thigh. Really, was that not?
It's a nice build-up, but it's just. There's not a foot involved in the whole build-up. It's just different body parts. Yeah.
Limbs, but off the pitch.
I think the problem with Stoke now is they've become a bit stale and a bit sort of under Hughes. They've become very. It's almost like Pulis with West Brom. It's kind of similar. They are your mid-table teams right there.
Yeah, there's no progression really, is there?
Well, that's what they wanted when they appointed Hughes, and they're not getting it.
Even the signings have stopped being progressive, haven't they? Choupo-Moting isn't a huge it's not a progressive transfer. I mean, I think it was free, wasn't it? I think he was a free agent.
Yeah.
He's a Stoke legend.
I think we let him go. So.
And then with their tweets, when they signed, they had the tweets, didn't they? And they were in their announcement of yesterday, they were quoting loads of people saying, "Still, Stoke have no ambition. Stoke are going nowhere." And then they announced the loan signing of Jose Rodriguez. Yeah. It's just a bit.
It's the same with the Kurt Zuma one.
They just don't seem to get it. They don't seem to understand how to push forward. They bought all these players like Shaqiri and Afellay who have all these.
And that's where their progression came.
But it didn't really.
No, but it did. You've got to say that they had more progression. At this point, would you say Stoke feel like they're going backwards at this point or forwards?
Backwards.
When they signed those players, were they above where they are now?
But that's.
I'd
I'd say before that,
Glenn
think
Johnson's
relatively, like you compare them to Watford at this point, and there's only one
Exactly.
team like you'd rather watch, and you know you think you're gonna
Exactly.
finish higher. But
Yeah, they need
I
to
don't
cut out the
know.
loan signings and sign a.
I don't know. I feel like Hughes. I feel like Hughes might
But
be
it's
one
like-
for the chop this season if he's not careful. He needs. Well, actually, he's been too careful. That's kind of the problem. But they just don't seem to be like risky. I mean, they're currently sitting 17th. Like that might not surprise you, but that's like it's been all quiet around Stoke. They could, maybe they might
Well,
go
yeah,
down this season. Maybe.
If Everton's form picks back up to what it should be, Stoke are in the drop zone.
Hmm. True.
They're below West Ham, which is. Yeah, I completely agree with you, and that Mark Hughes, if he isn't careful, at least he can score goals. It's just
West Ham got that's the problem with Stoke. Like they got Peter Crouch as probably the best finisher in the side,
Yeah.
and like compare that to West Ham, who's got Chicharito, I'd say probably like 3 times the player Crouch was.
It's like Champions League level. He's
Yeah.
like Chicharito is Champions League level.
So if West Ham can get Chicharito going, I've been saying this so many weeks now, and it just feels like I'm repeating myself. But Lanzini and Chicharito, if they get together and can actually like form a really good partnership, I think West Ham can go on and score a lot of goals. But I don't see the same thing happening to Stoke. Like Peter Crouch, he scores goals. Like we know he scores goals. He's done it this season even. But Mamadou Diouf is one of the worst players on the ball, and he's potentially playing right wing back in the game.
But he's scoring.
He is scoring, but it's the weirdest goals, and it just seems fluky, really. And when this luck, well, I'd say luck, when they score goals like this, when they go out of luck, I just think that Stoke are going to drop even further.
Well, Stoke have actually conceded the most goals in the league. Admittedly, they did lose 7-2 to Manchester City. But yeah, like you say, like Bournemouth possibly back, like you say, Michael. Sorry, Bournemouth possibly back with a bit better performances. Everton should probably not get relegated, and then I say Crystal Palace will probably stay up. I think I'm gonna stand by that, guys. To be honest, and then you look at that, and then you do worry for Stoke at this point. Really looking at it, and they've kind of gone under the radar. I think Hughes might be in trouble sooner rather than later. Actually, looking the way it is.
We should have a recap from. We did predicted league tables. We should have a recap the third. Well, like 1/3 into the season.
Well, we can have a look at that next week then, guys. If you want, we'll have a look at our predicted tables, and we'll. We will. Michael, I think you're the only one who didn't put Burnley bottom, so don't worry too much.
Well, it's alright. I put Chelsea top, so.
I mean,
I've got Everton quite high up, so I might be like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got West Ham 7th. Last game of the weekend to talk about then. Not really much happened in Southampton West Brom, but one brilliant thing did happen. You've probably seen this, guys, because it was an absolutely unbelievable goal. Buffal. What a goal.
Reminded me of Hattemer goal against Bolton in 2010.
But that didn't have two defenders running into each other.
No, that was straight through the middle.
Neom and Craig Dawson running into each other was so Benny Hill. I've been waiting for that goal to have that music put over it. Oh my goodness, it was so funny. It was so fun. And Craig Dawson, I'm sorry, he did go off injured after that. Kind of makes it a little bit funnier, but hopefully it's nothing serious. But goodness me. I was watching that and I was like, oh, go on. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, wow, he scored. That sort of... It was almost comic. Well, it was comical, really. Comical defending. But then fair play. He did go up to Pellegrino, hold his shirt up and do like the old, oh, you should pick me. And I believe Jermaine Genius on Match of the Day said, I put it quite nicely, he said, oh, you've played like 20 games for Southampton and that's your first goal. Like, so you shouldn't really be piping up that much. But, yeah, fair play to him. It was a very nice goal. And,
we said on the podcast last week about the way Southampton needs to score is like Gabbiadini stepping up, individuals stepping up, and yeah, again, it's like an individual goal. So
oh, come on, they're not going to score that every week.
Wait, hey, this podcast is almost like I don't even know. We're like prophets.
I mean, maybe. We're non-profit at this point, but we'll get there, guys. We'll get there.
What did Jermaine Genius say? He said something like decently controversial. Ah, man, I should have really looked
Spurs
this
should
up.
have won the FA Cup semi-final.
No.
You can't look at this game and tell me Spurs shouldn't have won.
Yeah, I can't remember now. I might mention it next week if I find what I'm thinking
You
of.
can always tweet it out as well. Get over to that at In The Mixer Show on Twitter. In The Mixer podcast at gmail.com. We're going to finish with our MVPs and our Bleak This Week segment. Alright, we'll go to you, Michael, with our first MVP. Come on. Give us your best shot.
For my MVP and villain this week, I've decided to go for managers, given that we've obviously talked recently a lot about managers being sacked by that. And my
managers.
MVP is your own Poch.
Oh, it's lovely.
His Podge.
I'll let him know.
Mauricio Pochettino, of course, for not only the result against Liverpool was obviously impressive, and it was down to a lot of the tactics that he used, but also the result midweek against Madrid was a very important one, and pretty much can you say Spurs are going to go through now without jinxing it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. Apple and Nicosia at home. It's in the bag.
Thank you. So, what about everyone else's MVPs then?
Well,
Phil, let's go to you next.
My MVP is one of the nicest men in the Premier League. Chris Hughton. What a guy.
I knew you were going to have Chris Hughton.
He's just a lovely guy. He's just fantastic. He's listening to his interviews as well on Sky on Friday Night Football. He's just brilliant.
Yeah,
He's just a great bloke, and like he set up his team so well. And I think he can be, I think he's actually he's had a tough time in the Premier League, like with Newcastle and Norwich. I think he got a lot of unnecessary stick. And that's maybe a bit harsh on Newcastle fans, because that was more to do with Ashley. But I think with Brighton, it's a really good fit for him, and I think he could be there a couple of years, and hopefully he'll be with Brighton in the Premier League in those years as well, because I think he's a decent manager, and I think, I'm happy to see him doing well. One of the nicer guys in football.
All right, to keep in line with my responsibilities, I'm going to pass it over to Elias and say, who's your MVP?
I'm gonna go along the lines with you, but more of a change that your Poch did, and that's Heung-min Son. I thought he had an absolutely brilliant game, and it just felt like he was the key to beating Liverpool, and he had such a great game that I just feel like, he deserves my MVP for the week.
Nice. I like that. Okay, so we'll move off of credit and we'll go to criticism and go for our villains of the week next. Phil, you okay with me taking over?
Yeah, but call it what it is. It's bleak this week. Come on.
All right, bleak this week. So, we decided against villains.
Villains
so bleak
is too
this week.
mean.
Okay, so bleak this week. Shall I'll get it started. And
yourself, you're doing a great job, mate.
I'm actually going to go for the other side of that fixture and go for Jurgen Klopp, with not only it just like a continual criticism of the lack of centre backs that he has, or lack of quality centre backs, but also his criticism of Lovren was, while maybe justified, it was unprofessional and kind of disrespectful, and you probably wouldn't expect a good response from one of your players after that kind of comment. It's a very individual management style, I think, a comment like that, and so I'm interested to see Lovren's response to it, and maybe he'll turn into the MVP next week, because Lovren might turn everything around, but I doubt it.
That's very optimistic indeed.
Very, very optimistic. So go on then, Phil.
My villain.
No, bleak this week.
Well, you're the host. You led me in that direction. You need to understand responsibility. But bleak this week, from my perspective, was Elias knows him well. It's Victor Lindelof. I said he needs time in this league, but it's clickbait, isn't it? Really, Victor Lindelof, absolute shambles at the back of that, a complete state, really. And I think he will come good, but this week he was, in my opinion, the worst performance. Yeah, exactly.
All right, and from one Swede to another, last but not least, Elias.
Last but not least, the man with the plan, which I'm gonna get my leak of the
Your B league.
the B league. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Richarlison for not winning the game for Watford.
Ooh, I like
It's-
that.
it's pretty-
I like that one.
It's pretty harsh, I think, but still,
Targeted, isn't it? Jesus.
if you're a
Ruthless.
striker in the Premier League, you should be scoring those chances, and that game should have been 3 or 4-1 up at halftime. Yeah, I wouldn't say he lost the game for Watford, but he definitely was a big factor of them losing.
Cool. Brutal.
Mhm.
There is no escape. If you make one mistake, Elias will catch it, especially if it's in a game he's watching. Yeah, so, well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. What an episode. What a frantic affair we had this weekend. Not us two, but the whole league. Yeah, so thank you very much for listening. These two gentlemen will say goodbye and give you their final thoughts. Anything we missed that you wanted to point out quickly, guys, just before we go? Or not?
Bristol
Soufiane
City.
Boufal.
We talked about it so much.
Yep.
Bristol City's home form's gone.
Yep. Unbeaten at home this season. Of course, we spoke about that last week in the In the Mixer podcast. Curse strikes again. You may be aware of this if you follow us on Twitter, but goodness me, they lost 3-0 at home to Leeds in a feisty affair. 2 red cards, I think. But,
Who was the team that previously beat Bristol at home?
I couldn't possibly remember.
Oh,
Even though
well,
I
I'll
know,
remind you.
because there's a certain reason you picked it.
Birmingham City.
Yeah, there we go.
Last game of the season.
We went a full podcast without mentioning Birmingham, I think.
I got
Except-
Schalke in twice, so
Yeah,
I did mention Harry Kane in the Birmingham shirt as well.
Ooh, that's
But,
you mentioned. I don't think it counts. You mentioned Tottenham about 17 times, so I don't think
We were speaking about them.
So thank you very much for listening this week,
Whoa,
guys.
whoa, whoa,
whoa.
I was just going to ask Elias quickly.
Yeah,
Did Malmo wrap up the Allsvenskan title this weekend?
yeah.
Oh,
Why? He told you not to ask about it.
I said
ask
last
about it
week, I
next
said,
week.
we'll go back to you, Elias, and find out what the celebrations were like. Clearly, they were beautiful, wonderful.
First thing after the podcast, yeah, don't mention the Allsvenskan League again.
We played Malmo today, seriously, 0-0, and yeah, it's a pretty dull game. But I want to mention something that happened in the Premier League to move away from this Swedish bullshit. Benicophobic, can we get a gif of his reaction when he got pulled down for the penalty, which Stanislas scored, because he looked like the saddest puppy I've ever seen. He wanted to take the penalty, but of course Junior Stanislas.
I saw him go for the ball, but then the
Yeah.
camera cut away, so I didn't see what happened.
I want a video of that.
I'm sure you'll get one. I've got a final mention as well, guys. A nice warm way to end the show. We're going to go to Serie D because Giovanni Liberti has been banned for 5 games for urinating on away fans. And that's a nice warm way to end the podcast in more ways than one. So,
Golden shower!
goodness me. Will it be a golden shower in Manchester come the end of the season? There's only one way. There's only one place to stay to find out if that happens. I mean, there's many ways, but you can find out with us if you want and subscribe to the podcast and let us know your feelings at the Twitter and
Slick.
email. Slick indeed. So, without any further ado, we're going to get out your ears and we are going to say goodbye. Say see you later, gents.
See
See you later, gents.
Goodbye, everybody.